Hey guys, it's Jim here, and welcome back to, finally, a new episode of Heroes and Generals, but it's warthunder. And to start us off with the Soviet vehicles, we are of course playing the T-26. Got you, homie. That's not a steward. Hey guys, it's Jim here, and welcome back to, finally, a new episode of Heroes and Generals, but it's warthunder. Although I'm not exactly sure why I should be sounding so happy about this, considering the fact that this is probably the last season of this series. If you don't know what Heroes and Generals but it's warthunder is, it's a series that I started where I'm playing Heroes and Generals vehicles, both tanks and planes, in War Thunder instead. Just to basically see if it's more fun or better represented or whatever. Anyway, why is this like the season finale of the series? Well, in case you're not aware, I've already done the US and the German vehicles. Now those two factions are out of the way, I am now playing the Soviet faction, and unfortunately that means, yes, this is the last faction to cover, so therefore, the last season of this series. And to start us off with the Soviet vehicles, we are of course playing the T-26, which is the first tank you unlock. Unfortunately, there is no T-38 in War Thunder, for obvious reasons, so we're going to be playing the very first tank you unlock right after grinding with the T-38. So of course, that will be the T-26 light tank. And I really do not miss this vehicle at all, if I'll be honest. Both in Heroes and Generals and in War Thunder. Not because of the firepower, but mainly because everything about this tank just says, I want to die. And as you can see, you only have 15mm in pretty much every single angle you look at this thing. 15mm of armor. Like, a tank rolls up to you, looks at you, sneezes at you, and you die. That's how weak your armor is. I mean, sure, small machine guns is not going to penetrate this, but 50 caliber machine guns and anything else bigger, yeah, you're not going to be alive for very long. And you might be thinking, yeah, that's not a big deal. Very little armor, that means it's a light tank, that means it's fast, right? Well, that's the problem with the T-26. For a light tank that doesn't have any armor and is only weighing around 10 tons, you don't exactly have the best speed. Like, you would think that this thing would at least go up to 45 kilometers an hour or 50 kilometers an hour, but not with this engine. Only 91 horsepower and lugging only 10 tons and a narrow set of tracks. I mean, sure, going up to 20 kilometers an hour is not a big deal, but going off-road, driving up a hill, anything else, forget about it. But after 20 kilometers an hour, it's gonna take quite a while before you finally build up to 30 kilometers an hour. I mean, it's definitely faster than the one in Heroes and Generals, but still though, not the most mobile thing I've ever used. But at least the good news is that the firepower is definitely not lacking. This is the same 45mm you've been seeing in pretty much every Soviet vehicle in the reserve tier. We're talking about a time where the Soviets really liked the 45mm. So much so that the T-34, this one, the 76mm L11 cannon, the crewmen actually hated this gun so much that they actually threatened to go back to the 45mm if they are not getting a better 3-inch gun. So yes, 45mm 20k cannon, and of course the rounds that we'll be using is the APHE BC shell. That pans out to 70mm of armor at point blank. And of course this is a APHE shell, so you do have explosive mass, only 19 grams. And of course, APHE BC shell, you do have that ridiculous angle of penetration. Because, you know, Soviet. Now, several good news and bad news about this thing is that the good news is that tanks in reserve tier don't exactly have armor, so 70mm is actually more than enough to penetrate pretty much every single tank you come across. And to top that off with a ridiculous angle of penetration. Now, the bad news is that the explosive filler isn't really a lot, like 19 grams. If you shoot the enemy tank and damage them in an awkward spot, this shell is really not going to do much to them. But hey, at least the best part is that Battle Rating 1.0 or Reserve Tier, most of the tanks you come across don't exactly have crew space, so you will still do a lot of damage if you hit the crew compartment area. Now, if you're wondering, can I use the APBC shell? Since this seems to be an upgrade, like, you know, no explosive filler, so that means it does penetrate more, right? It technically does, but you only pen up to 73mm of armor, which is not a lot different from the APHGBC shell. So yeah, just stick to this shell. And then moving on the other aspects of the gun, you carry up to 205 rounds of ammunition. Please, for the love of God, don't bring all of them. Bring like 40 shells or something. Like, you're an explosive accident waiting to happen. Plus, you don't even need that many shells. And then moving on, your reloading rate is around 3 seconds. Now, granted, I am running Expert Crew on. Yeah, I know. With maxed out weapon reloading and high level leadership. Now, even if you don't have points in this thing, it's really not a big deal at all because your base reload is actually only around 3.5 seconds. That's more than enough to pretty much nail the enemy tank 2 times over. And not to mention, again, you're using APHE PC shell, so good chance you one-shot the enemy tank, or good chance you basically damage a lot of the crewmen. And then moving on, negative 6 degrees gun depression. Wow! Negative 6! 1 degree more than most Soviet tanks. And finally, no gun stabilizer, but the gun doesn't really bounce too much when you stop to fire, so I mean it kinda does, but it's really not too terrible. And so there you have it. This is a T-26 in War Thunder. And unfortunately, in comparison with the two, I'm gonna have to give this one to Heroes and Generals. Mainly because the T-26 in Heroes and Generals is ridiculously survivable. And if you're wondering if I'm talking bullshit, but here's the thing though. In Heroes and Generals, if you play hold down with any tank, except the Stux or the Hetzer of course, you'll be surprised at how much damage you can actually take before you die. And the T-26 is no exception. In fact, I almost died facing a T-26 in my Panzer III J1. And the reason is because the T-26 was playing hull down. I couldn't damage anything that was in the hull, and all I was shooting at was the turret. And in Heroes and Generals, the turret basically has nothing in it. Apart from the gun breach, of course. But anyway, enough about the T-26. Now let's take this thing out of the battle and wish me luck, guys. No. Poor guy. If there's anything worse than a T-26, is that vehicle, the EMP-35. Yes, it is very safe. You should keep pushing. Yeah, the poor French. That's why they needed a steward. Another steward behind him. There he is. Oh yes, keep reversing. Right into my guns. Sucks to be you, bro. Yay, back up. Yes. That should tell whoever's up there to piss off for a second. Or we make our way up here. I thought it's gonna keep moving. Oh my goodness. Oh! I am so sorry, buddy. That is not a good spot to hit you. Ah, son of a bitch. Ah, goddammit, it was too low. That's okay though, thank you, so I'll take it. Are you trying to outurn me, sir?
captured, we have the advantage. Another zone's captured, we have the advantage.
Very quiet.
Попадание! Цель уничтожена! Попадание! Дальний ход!
There we go.
Цель уничтожена!
Thank you for coming out.
Цель уничтожена! Вижу повреждения! Огонь! Цель подбита!
Please die! Please die!
Подбита!
Thank you!
Цель уничтожена! Цель уничтожена!
I'm dead.
Заряжающий контужен!
Yeah, I'm dead. There goes my reach.
Must be
Nice knowing you guys.
Fire medicine!
Where is the Swiss wagon? I know he's here somewhere.
Attention to the designated grid square.
Вижу повреждения! Цель уничтожена!
Most of the strategic zones are captured.
Отлично, ребята! Ставьте чайник!